we could see this rotation, spin it so it only makes one rotation in 24 hours. All right. And now you're going to tell me that you grab something to scale. It's going to be the size of like the pin of a head of a needle. How far along that ball's surface is it able to fly within a day? Okay. Can a plane a plane could probably fly around the Earth in one day. All right. How far has that ball moved since then? All right. How much angular rotation is being taken up? This is all. So every flight you're talking about, it would only matter for like flights that are going from like all the way. I'm just saying, like to scale, like this isn't happening. In the
Well, what
world,
I'm
it's
saying,
spinning
actually,
like, yeah.
well, okay, now you can minimize it in your head, right? Maybe that makes you believe it still, like the one rotation, the way they do with like, it's not 1,000 miles an hour, it's just one rotation, so it's really slow. No, 1,000 miles an hour is actually the speed, and the difference of starting at a 500 mile per hour latitude to go to 500 to go to 1,000 would be a difference of 500. Now you could say incrementally somehow it catches up, right? By banking east or whatever, but pilots are never trying to do that to begin with, which they would be have to be if it were actually spinning and they had to catch up to the Earth and add tangential velocity, which doesn't really work anyway because it slows down to, even if it could catch up, when it slows down to land, if it's not in sync with the Earth, which it never would be because it is, the atmosphere is automatically not in sync anyway. So even if it were off by the amount that the atmosphere is off, it would be a problem because you'd have a sideways vector and then the forward vector of your plane. So the sideways vector would affect the plane, break the wheels off, and you have to somehow magically think that it's moving with the Earth no matter where it goes, even if it goes against the spin, even if it goes in and out of the
Sorry
200
to
miles
laugh,
per
man,
hour
but when you
faster. It's just ridiculous.
when you say it breaks the wheels off, like every time I'm like, man, I thought when I the first time when we talked about it, I was like, don't tell me you're gonna tell me it breaks the wheels off, and you fucking went there. I thought you were
Well, it would.
joking. No, it's
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like I thought you were joking that I didn't realize already that it would break the wheels off. Like even
no.
just a little
Listen,
bit would
I
break the wheels
understand what you're saying so much that I
off.
got to the point before you did when you were trying to explain it to me. I was
Right.
like, don't So don't
Because
tell me that I
your
haven't
common
looked
sense led
into
you
it.
there. Your common sense led you there that it would break the wheels off if there was two vectors, right? So
Right.
it
So
couldn't be
don't tell
possible
me I
spinning.
haven't looked into it. I completely understand your
Well, then how
position.
is it that you still think it doesn't make a difference?
So you're upset that I've looked at the argument and I don't believe the thing you believe. That's different from not understanding your position.
No, you're
It
talking about
is.
having a common sense conclusion that you looked into it and came to, and now you're denying that common sense conclusion as if it's something I believe rather than just a common sense conclusion that would make a difference.
Is it something you believe?
It's not something I believe. I
You don't
can't
think the
believe
wheels
that it would
would
work
break
on a
off?
spinning ball as if it were stationary.
So you
That's not
don't
out of
believe
the
that the
question.
wheels would break off on a spinning ball if the plane took off at one latitude and landed at
I,
a.
I, I would assess that that would have to happen if the
Well, then
Earth
I
were spinning
understand
at a
your
different
position.
speed tangentially, and you would have to say, yeah, that would happen if it were at a different speed. Then you have to say, how is it always at the same speed magically and not reduce it to one rotation as if that fixes it?
How have you not started your own YouTube channel where you just ask pilots this one question? Like, just get them
Dude,
all to answer. Like, this would be. I
it's
would watch
because
this
this
all day.
ruins the
I
globe,
shit you
dude.
not.
They
No,
hate
I
this
fucking
argument
it
more than
doesn't.
anything else.
I would
It sure
watch it
does.
all day though. Like it doesn't, but I would watch it. You should
Well, you
start.
haven't explained how it doesn't. You just said it because it's one rotation, then it works just fine in my head. That's what you said, as if that made sense to anybody.
Yeah, I agree that I might not have made sense to people, but I made sense to
Okay,
myself.
that's then at least we agree about that.
No, I made perfect sense to myself, and
Demon
yeah.
Stride, you're a very likable person. You're lucky for you have that quality. It's saving you right now.
I saw the pitchfork. It's all right.
I've been giving you shit about this ever since we first talked, as well as any other baller that has no common sense.
Mm. I'll reassess my analogy. Maybe I'll even do one, and so I can show it visually. Because
You should.
when I say
That's what it
things,
takes, man.
a lot of times
I'm
people
telling
will.
you, a lot
Yeah.
of flat earthers still don't realize how damning this argument is. They think somehow it still explains itself, like the spoke on a wheel I got from somebody. Like it was just like you stayed just on your path. and you can draw a straight line to your destination, and it'll just tangentially be at the same speed, somehow sideways. But if third grader would realize that, like I said, if you try to convince a teenager that the video game is exactly the same video game, even though it's a spinning ball, they would look at you like you're just an idiot.
Like I'm saying, you should make a YouTube channel where you go around, you ask pilots this, and then you also go to like college campuses and ask like teenage kids, like, Fortnite. They want you to believe that's on a spinning ball,
Yeah, that'd be a
right?
good idea. No, I was saying that there was a video game made where you got unlimited lives, but you could never land the plane because it's the actual spinning ball with all of the same exact numbers that we're supposed to believe that we're on, with the same exact speeds, with the run rotation that's actually 1,000 miles an hour, with all those things included. Then it would be over because you'd never be able to land the plane and you get unlimited lives. But that wouldn't
There was
matter.
somebody here who
Yeah,
did,
hold on, Demon Stride, because I don't even know what the fuck you're doing. Is this whole thing based on the plane having two vectors?
Hmm?
Yeah, no. You said yes?
Two vectors.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have two vectors.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't even make sense. That's incoherent. That's maybe why I never understood this argument. The plane doesn't have two vectors. Yeah, it only has one vector.
Exactly. It would have to have two if it was on a spinning ball.
No, it never has two. No matter where you are, anywhere, ever, forever, it only has one vector.
Three?
No, not three, just one.
Want to go next tower and get the stuff going?
How about 45 minutes? I got 1:15.
Dude, you're hot micing, bro. You're hot micing.
Sorry.
Okay.
Plane's only got one vector. I don't get it. No matter what's happening.
Are you saying that the second vector would be the Earth's rotation?
There is no second vector, dude.
No, I get it. I get it. But his argument is that the plane is going in its vector, and then the second you lift off and you traverse the globe in the globe model, and the vector of the ground underneath you will have changed in velocity. So is that what you're claiming the second vector is?
Dude, there's no second vector. That doesn't even make sense. I don't care if Santa Claus comes down and lands on your plane. There's still only one vector.
I got bullied and told in one of the other servers that he wasn't real. You're not going to do that here, right?
We got a lot of evidence for Santa Claus. We got the
That's
cookies.
what I was saying.
We got the NORAD satellite tracker. You know how many people would have to be in on that? I could get some Glober shit, some Santa Glober shit on you right now. I got mad evidence for Santa. Anyways, I don't want to ruin the whole thing. Carry on. On the rail, though, I've had
it's as simple as that, Jeremy. It's the two vectors. They would have to have thrusters.
Dude, there's
on
no
the
two
side
vectors. What do you mean?
No, it would need thrusters on the side to have the second vector. It doesn't have thrusters on the side of the plane.
Okay, so the plane's got one vector.
Yep.
Okay. Now what?
Exactly. So how does it go sideways?
You were saying it had two vectors earlier.
No, that's the whole point. It would need two vectors to be able to keep up with the spin as it's slowing down to land, because it would have to go sideways faster than it's going forward to keep up with the Earth.
The fact that it's changing tangential velocities is why it has the Coriolis effect.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't exist to begin with. So there's no measurement of that. Plus, if it was spinning, we would see The Earth spinning separately from the plane from above, because you wouldn't be in
Only
sync with
when
the
you
Earth
change.
automatically, because the Earth to the atmosphere isn't even in sync. So even if it were somehow carried with the atmosphere, it still wouldn't be in sync. So it'd still be fucked.
They're saying planes can't land if there was the Coriolis effect. Planes couldn't land.
Well, they would, if they had to increase their sideways vector that they don't have by 500 miles per hour. If they started at a 500 miles per hour latitude, if that conserved momentum, and it still only had that 500 miles per hour, given that they didn't even lose it, which it would. If it still had that, it would only have 500. It wouldn't have 1,000 miles per hour sideways vector to be in sync with the Earth when it's landing.
Is that your argument, though? Planes couldn't land if the Coriolis effect was real?
Yeah, exactly.
How much do you think this is? How much do you think this Coriolis effect is doing?
Well, it would be 500 miles per hour difference. And they can say that if you're headed south, because it'd be 1,000 miles at the equator that they would have to be moving sideways with the Earth.
Okay, you take off 1,000 miles at the equator. Okay, then what?
No, you take off at 500 miles per hour up north. Right, 500 miles per hour.
500 miles up north.
So how do you gain 500 miles per hour to be in sync with the Earth when you get to the equator?
You move to a new tangential velocity and you change it,
How?
and that's where you get the Coriolis effect.
Without the sideways vector, how do you get rid of that?
It's the Coriolis effect. That's what causes it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It would need the second vector.
What are you saying? I don't understand. I never understood this. This is like the 100th time I heard you go through it.
You're already getting it. You're saying there's only one vector, right? So it would need the second vector to go sideways with the Earth faster than it started with.
No, when it changes, that's where you get the Coriolis effect. That's why you get the Coriolis effect.
Well, then it'd be off course, right?
Yes, that's what they say the Coriolis effect does. Causes you to go off course.
How does it compensate for that?
I don't know. They steer the plane in a different direction. Dude, this argument don't even make sense. I've heard it like 100 times.
Hold on, wait. You're almost there, Jeremy. It does make sense. You already said you're almost there. Yeah, because you said there's only one vector, right?
Anything moving
how does it steer in two vectors?
There is no two vectors. Nothing has two vectors.
Right. And it would need two vectors to go sideways with the Earth faster than where it started from. It would need that second vector to be caught up to the Earth. Do you understand? It doesn't have that second vector. That's what you started with. It would need that second vector. Otherwise, it wouldn't be moving sideways fast enough to be in sync with the Earth. It's landing on a north runway, right? And that runway is moving 1,000 miles an hour, but it only started with conserved momentum of 500. How does it gain that sideways momentum? Now, they can say it banks east, right, to catch up, but there's no training for that. They would have to have something in the cockpit that tells them how fast the Earth is moving sideways, right, eastward. They would have to know exactly how much that is, because what if they got off course? What if they somehow they don't have any way of knowing how fast the plane is moving eastward?
Bro, do you know how the Coriolis
eastward movement
globe model?
Absolutely.
Do you even know how the Coriolis effect works on their globe model?
Absolutely, dude.
Tell me how.
I don't more than most people.
Tell me how it happens.
The Coriolis effect or the Coriolis force?
The effect.
Right. The effect is just what you would see, right, from the third position, like from space. If you were watching the plane,
you're already wrong. You're already wrong, dude.
You look it up.
You're already wrong.
I'm not, but you could say I am, and tell me why.
How does it happen? Tell me how it happens.
Because if you were to fly in a straight line, you would be off from your course if you didn't catch up to the Earth's speed, because the Earth is moving faster than your plane is moving faster sideways. So you would be off course if you did not catch up to the Earth sideways in that vector that it doesn't have.
Dude, that was a lot of stuff. First of all, you don't see it from the God frame or the third frame. You see it from.
It doesn't matter how you see it.
You see it from the non-rotating. I'm just pointing out how you were wrong right off the jump. It's not. It's something you view from the non-inertial frame.
No, the effect.
It's something you would view from the globe on the non-inertial.
Wait, Jeremy, listen. The effect is just the illusion of it being in a curved path as opposed to a straight path like we see with the merry-go-round, right? You've gone through that one. That's the effect. That has nothing to do
the
with the
effect, and it's
actual.
viewed from the non-inertial reference frame, which would be on the
Absolutely.
globe model. It would be on the
All I was
globe,
saying.
not from outer space or whatever the fuck you said.
Well, if you're talking about the non-inertial reference frame, then you have all of these different reference frames that you could look at it from, and it would be different than the actual path, which you've gone over many times, and I've heard you saying it would go straight, actually go straight. And then they get into this whole reference frame thing as if that matters. It's not about whether the Coriolis effect is real or not. It's about whether it works with the spinning ball and a plane. And you have to then look at the reality of it. And we're talking about, just forget the whole word phrase Coriolis effect for a minute. Just think about the reality of it. If the Earth is spinning faster at the equator, then it would have to pick up eastward momentum to be in sync with the Earth, so it could treat the runway as if the runway stationary, which all planes always do. They always treat the Earth as if it's stationary, just like all pilots are trained to. Right? They treat the Earth as if it's stationary. They land on a stationary runway. They never have to worry about a moving runway. The only way that's possible is if the Earth isn't moving, because it would be at a different tangential velocity than when the plane started. And if the plane were worried about catching up 500 miles per hour more eastward as it's flying south, where it's got one vector and it's only going one vector forward, not two vectors forward and sideways to catch up to the Earth. Now, even if they say they can bank east incrementally over that period of time to somehow catch up to that 500 mile extra that they would need, what about when it goes west? The pilots aren't trained to catch up or bank east to catch up. And they would need to be if the Earth were actually moving, because they're not in sync with the Earth to start off with. And the atmosphere is not in sync anyway, so they would never be able to land. And if they go west, southwest, right, now they're going against the spin of the Earth, so the atmosphere thing doesn't work. And they have to gain eastward momentum as they hit the equator still, because they're going southwest, right? So how are they going to pick up eastward momentum if they're going west-southwest?
Bro,
they can't bank east.
Halfway through that, you just monologued on a little bit. I don't know.
Because it sounds like you're just saying it doesn't work somehow, but you're not really understanding what I'm saying. So I'm trying to get through it. Again, how many times have I gone through this? You haven't heard it?
Yeah, every time you say it, it makes no sense, because I don't think you know how the Coriolis effect works.
Okay, well then you prove that I don't, because you're wrong in the situation.
I mean, you've already explained it wrong right off the rip. I tried to show where you explained it wrong.
How.
You enter, you take off. You're moving tangentially 500 miles an hour. You move into a new speed of 501. You've now caused the Coriolis effect to happen, and you've deviated.
Right.
And then you go 502. Now you move to a new spot. Now you're going 502 tangentially. Now you've deviated a little bit more, all the way up to 1,000, and you've just deviated the whole way.
Right.
That's it. Now you're at the equator going 1,000 miles an hour.
Okay, so then how do you get to the 1,000 miles an hour?
Don't even make sense, dude. That's why I don't think you know how to Coriolis effect works on the globe.
No, dude, what you just said I agreed with, right? It was nothing different than what I was saying. Exactly what I was saying.
So by the time you get to the equator, you're going 1,000 miles an hour, and you've deviated a whole bunch.
How are you going 1,000 miles an hour? I thought you deviated.
Yeah, you deviated left to right. You doesn't mean you're not. You think you take off in Alaska and you stay going 500 miles an hour the whole way? You move into a new tangential speed. That's what causes the Coriolis effect. You need to talk to Zanuck or something.
Dude. Okay, I just had a friend leave. Yeah, so you explained that, it would be off course, right? Incrementally over time. It would need eastward 1,000 miles an hour, right? By the time it gets to the equator, right? Because it only started with 500, right? So how did it pick up the 500 miles per hour momentum?
So you start off going 500 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You move to a place on Earth where it's going 501 miles an hour. You deviate a little bit. The plane's in the thing. It's going 501 miles an hour now.
Oh, okay. You're saying the atmosphere automatically makes it in sync with the Earth. Is that what you think?
Dude, you're at that spot. That's what you're doing. It doesn't. It has to. Yes.
No. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not about. You see, they've tricked you. Still, it seems like, into thinking that just because it stays on its path, right? Then it doesn't stay on its path.
It deviates.
Well, if it deviates, then how's it going to catch up to the Earth?
What do you mean catch up?
Because it's moving 1,000 miles an hour rather than 500 miles per hour, the way that you started off with.
Dude, you start off at 500 miles an hour. You move to a location where it's 501. You've now
Yeah,
deviated a little bit, and now
how is
you're
that
going
location?
501. You do
How
that
is
all
it
the way up to the
automatically
top.
moving
Bro,
sideways?
stop.
You don't have the second vector, bro.
Dude, I don't know where you've been hanging out at. You got to relax with the interruptions, please.
You said the same thing, and I was just saying that if you're moving to a spot that you're calling 501, right? Now you're saying that somehow the plane has picked up momentum eastward, right? Because it's at that spot. Is that what you think?
That's how it works, dude. You move to a new spot. The Coriolis effect happens. You've deviated. You're now going to tangential speed because you're in that location of where the tangential speed is. The plane's moving with it.
Okay, so this is how. Okay,
This is
really
why your shit never made sense, because you don't know how the Coriolis effect works.
No, Jeremy, I guarantee you're wrong on this one. And I know you said that you don't understand what I'm saying. And obviously, it sounds like you don't, right? Still. So if you let me explain and actually listen and walk through the steps with me, I can get you to see it. Are you willing to do that?
Dude, you take off. You're going 500 miles an hour. You move to a new location that's going 501 miles an hour. Your plane's now going 501 miles an hour, and you've
Okay, wait, stop
deviated
right
a little bit.
Stop right there. Okay. First of all, if you move to the new location that's going 501 miles per hour, then you haven't deviated because you're moving with the Earth in the same path that it's supposed to take as if it were just flying there straight over a stationary Earth, right?
That's another key. Hold on. That's another key that tells me you don't know how the Coriolis effect works, because that's how the Coriolis effect happens, is when you move to an area with a new tangential velocity. That's actually the
Right.
only way you even get. That's the
But
only way
what
you
causes
even get
the
the
plane to
Coriolis
move
effect.
faster?
Bro, just
What causes
listen, dude. You've been getting this
What?
wrong for like a year now. Just listen.
No, actually, you have, and I'm going to prove it to you right now.
All right.
Everyone's going to hear it. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
Yeah. You just told me that wasn't how it works, but when you move to the 501 area, that's what causes it. Is you move to a new tangential speed. That's what causes the Coriolis effect. You just said no.
Listen.
Yeah, you're wrong.
No,
You're
listen.
fucking wrong. That's wrong. That's why
Listen,
this.
okay,
That's
no,
why
I
your
think that
whole
we're just talking past each other right now. We're
You have a
talking past each
fundamental
other.
misunderstanding on how the Coriolis effect works.
No, it's not true.
You do.
Okay?
You do.
Coriolis
You just
effect is
proved
the
it. You just showed
deviation.
everyone that knows how it works. You just showed us.
Jeremy, listen. The deviation would be the Coriolis effect, right?
Bro,
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. You just don't know how it works, dude.
Do you agree? We have to agree on
I'm
what
not
we
even about to
what we
debate you
actually
on
agree
this, because I'm not
on.
about
Now
to
you're
debate
trying to
you
back
on this.
out. I'm not even trying to debate you. I'm just trying
I'm
to
not
get you to
backing out.
understand that we're
You don't
agreeing,
know
and you
how it
don't. You
works. I
think we're
can't debate you
disagreeing,
on
and we're
something.
agreeing. But
I
you
can't
don't
debate you
understand
on something. I can't debate you on something if you don't know how it works.
Okay, so then I agree that it would be the deviation. Do you agree that the deviation would be the Coriolis quote unquote effect?
Dude, are you making this up as you go along? Now you agree, then you disagree. Just learn how it works, and
Wait,
maybe
no,
it'll make sense to this shit.
I'm just trying to walk step through step, Jeremy. We have to start figuring out what we agree with, right? And then how is it that I'm seeing it differently than you are? That's where we have to go with this, right? We both agree the deviation is the Coriolis effect, correct? Even though the displacement technically isn't the effect. The effect is actually what you would see from a different reference frame. But let's just say the Coriolis quote unquote effect, or the displacement caused by the Earth spinning at a different speed than the plane, would cause it to be off course. Like say if you're shooting a bullet, the reason that it deviates is because if you're shooting from the equator towards the north, then the bullet's going to technically have more conserved momentum than the area it's moving into. So it's going to deviate to the right going up north, as if we're looking at it from the third party's perspective. Then it would seem to deviate even though it's going straight, because it's moving into a tangential velocity that's lower than where it started from. Do you agree with that? Does that show that I know what Coriolis effect is? Can we get past that at least and then go to the plane?
You've already demonstrated like 2 or 3 times that you don't know how it works, bro. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I don't know if Witt's still here. He and I have talked about this many times, and he's gone through it with ballers, and he's agreeing with me many times that I totally am right about this, that vectors about the landing would not work. I don't know if he would make you like believe it just because it's Witt's it instead of me, but it's exactly what he would say. I guarantee you.
What would Witzit say? Is that like, what would Jesus do?
Yeah, well, that's what you make it seem like. Because if Witt's here, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, he totally explained it," and I don't know. Seems like you're the one that praises him more than me.
Bro, you got
I'm
it
not even
twisted,
trying to
dude.
do
I don't ride Witz's dick like the rest of you guys do. Sorry.
Well, let's not even make that an issue. Let's just talk about the plane's landing. You said it's a start, that the plane only has one vector. And I thought, oh, finally he gets it. It doesn't have two vectors because it would need a sideways vector to keep going faster with the Earth. It doesn't have a sideways vector. It just has a forward vector. Now you're saying, oh, it just moved to this new spot and it's automatically in sync with the Earth because it moved to the spot. How does moving to the spot make it move sideways with the Earth faster? It has to pick up sideways momentum if it's going south, right? How's it going to pick up sideways vector when it only has one vector forward, which you started with, which made me think you thought, made me think that you understand it, but you obviously don't still. And you're saying I've been getting it wrong for a year, and you have no idea what I'm talking about. Have you listened to the hours that I've gone on with Zanuck? I could post these talks with him right now. Would that make you more convinced that he's right and I'm wrong?
Dude, from what I've heard in the last 5 minutes, I just know that you don't know how this works on the globe model. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, that's what the ballers say. Oh, it just works. I know you're wrong, but I can't explain how you're wrong. Listen, it would have to have more eastward momentum, right? Sideways. Because it's not going sideways, it's going forward, south. It's not going sideways and forward. But they want to say bank east. Somehow it just gains 500 miles per hour to be in sync with the Earth. And you're saying, yeah, it just goes to the spot where it's 501 and then 2 and then 3. And then it's just moving with the Earth magically, even though it only has one vector. Contradicting yourself and then telling me I don't understand. Anybody else want to chime in to help out? Any other flat earthers here?
Yes.
Sounds like you're having fun over there, PMAC.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, what's up? Do you understand what I'm saying? Napalm, can you explain it to Jeremy, please? I'm working it. I don't want to make too much noise while I'm talking. Explain to him how the plane wouldn't be able to fly and land because of the different tangential velocity. Just go through it with him. I think he might be more receptive to you.
No, Chairman won't be more receptive to me. No. I'm working too, but yeah, where do you gain the extra tangential velocity, Jeremy? Like, this is an old school, like, Brian Mullins argument, right? Balls out physics, lays out the whole physics argument for lack of ability to gain tangential velocity landing on a north-south runway. You remember him from back in the day? Jeremy? Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, he said he doesn't understand what I'm saying for a long time, and it sounds like that's the case. I don't know how to explain it to him any better if he just continues to think I'm wrong without even knowing why. But you could try if he's still here.
I mean, dude, you just said some fundamental things about the Coriolis effect on the globe that is just wrong. I don't know what to tell you, bro.
What is wrong about the statement where I said that you would have to acquire more tangential velocity? Can you articulate that?
Yeah, the
In a
plane
way
takes
that,
off
like,
at 500. The plane takes off. It's going at 500. Then it moves to an area where it's doing 501. The Coriolis effect happened. It deviates, and now the plane's going 501. Is the plane not moving with the Earth anymore, or what? Did something weird happen? Like, this shit don't make no sense, guys. Use your fucking heads. Come on.
so I know you're you're trying to minimize it like that, like 500, 501. So if you take off with a tangential velocity in one direction of, let's say, 500 miles per hour, and you leave you leave that surface, you're continuing with that, let's say, 500 miles per hour. How are you gaining by the time you get to the equator? How are you gaining the extra 500 miles per hour?
Dude, you take off, you're going 500 miles an hour. You move to an area that's 501. The Coriolis effect happens. You're now moving at 501 because you're moving with the atmosphere. That's what you're moving with the Earth. Then you go 502. You're now going 502. The Coriolis effect happened again, all the way up to 1,000. What do you think the plane?
Oh, so it's like the only way that you could possibly explain this is like an example of the atmosphere being something analogous to like a jello that is spinning around the outside of a solid object, right? So you take off in this jello, and this jello is keeping you going around, right? Meaning you have this
It's
ultra
the
thick
atmosphere. The atmosphere.
atmosphere. What is the atmosphere? So if the wind
I'm
blows
just
to the
explaining
left,
how it
to
works
the
on the
east, or
globe
to the
model. I
west,
mean, if I'm explaining how it
what is
works
the
on the
difference
globe model.
between the
All
atmosphere
right.
and the air? What is the difference between the atmosphere and the air?
Same thing. I'm just explaining how it works on the globe model, dude. I mean, you guys obviously don't even know. I don't know what to tell you.
No, we comprehend the globe model. We're just trying to poke holes in it because there's
Don't sound
obvious
like
holes.
it.
So do you understand the globe model? So you say the atmosphere moves with the earth. So does that mean that the air moves
That's what
with
the
the
globe
earth?
says, dude. Yeah, that's what the globe says, dude. We're just gonna sit here and argue. You're gonna make me argue for the globe. If you don't know how it works, I don't know what to tell you. I don't even care. Go ahead.
Why are you putting that back on us like we're arguing for the globe? Like that's literally what you are doing.
You're making me argue for the globe because you guys don't know how it works on the globe. So it's weird now. I hate when you guys make me do this shit.
I don't even know. I don't even know. Like you're doing this with many different subjects where you're trying to like flip it around on the people that are exposing the holes in the globe model, and try to flip it around on those people as if like we're arguing for the globe in some way, shape, or form, when our argument is actually counter to that. And it's
Yeah,
pretty
I know. I
much
said you're making
a
me
lot of
argue
the
for the
most.
globe. You're making me argue for the globe. I didn't say you're arguing for the globe. I said you're making me argue for the globe.
I'm not making you do anything. You're just doing it yourself.
I have to sit here and teach you how it works on the globe. I don't know. I'm not doing it. I don't care if you know or not. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
So your argument in a rebuttal to Dave is we don't understand how it works on a globe, therefore we can't rebut how the explanation of how it works on a globe doesn't actually work in reality. That's weird.
Yeah,
You're
what
in
I don't
the
get,
you're
Jeremy,
in
is
the
we used to
atmosphere.
talk about this. Jeremy, when we used to talk about this, remember how we were talking about like the shortest path? You know how it would make sense if the plane took a different path, like if it was going to Dallas from Chicago, then it would go south as Dallas is coming towards it, right? Because we know the ball is spinning separately from the plane in a different reference frame by the globe model's requirements for it to be a separate reference frame, and the Dallas would be moving towards us, so the flight path would reflect that. And we were always saying, well, yeah, it would, to save on gas, it would go towards where the destination is going to be. And I've heard you say that, so it made me think that you
Yeah.
got it.
The difference is my argument makes sense. Yours doesn't.
We're saying the same thing, dude. Except you're not getting that it doesn't
No, you're
work
not.
because it
It's not
has to
even
have.
close to the same
No,
thing.
you don't realize that we're saying the same thing. That's what's fucking crazy right now.
It's not
You're
even close to
set
the
on
same
that.
thing,
I
bro.
don't understand it when Napalm and I totally do, and you're just looking like you're arguing with something that we're not arguing for, and it's really confusing, dude. It really is. You said the city would be spinning towards it, right? And just like if you were to go straight from New York to Florida and just go on a straight path without trying to correct, then it would be like 300 miles off. By the time it gets there, Florida's going to be eastward of where it ends up because of the Coriolis quote unquote effect, or the displacement caused by the turning Earth, as opposed to the plane, right? So it would be, if Florida's going to be eastward of it, why doesn't it just fly towards where Florida's going to be? I've heard you say that, right?
Yeah,
Why doesn't it
because
just
that
fly
makes
that?
sense. Opposed to, because unlike what you're saying, that should actually make sense.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Now that's the whole concept, right? We agree on that, right? It would fly where Florida's going to be, not just where Florida was when it started off. It's going to have to fly towards where Florida's going to be, because that would make more sense, right? I've heard you say that. I've heard you use that argument.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Yes, the thing you're
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
does.
Okay.
So
Right.
if
Then we're taking step one. Go ahead, Napalm.
yeah, so if we're trying to fly towards where Florida is going to be, we're going to have to start off with this 500 mile per hour tangential speed, and then we're going to have to increase that by 500 miles per hour, right? Well, actually, with Florida, it wouldn't be, let's say, another 300 miles per hour. So as we're traveling and we're trying to catch up to Florida, not only are we increasing our speed, we're also having to gain another 300 miles per hour in order to catch up with Florida as it's spinning away from us, if that makes sense. How are we gaining that? What are pilots doing
Put
to
you in a
correct
medium.
that?
Okay, if I put you in a medium, and at one point it's spinning 500 miles an hour, and then I move you to a place where it's spinning 500 miles an hour, guess what your tangential speed's going to be?
Well,
You
if
act like it's
both
some
are
magic
500
thing
miles
where they're
per
gonna.
hour.
One's 501, one's 500. You move to the 501 area, you're now doing 501. And you go 502, and you go all the way up to whatever you need to go up to.
Okay, so this is what the ballers have to believe somehow fixes it, but it doesn't, right? So they have to think that the atmosphere somehow moves the plane with the Earth perfectly in sync. And that's kind of what
The
you're saying,
atmosphere
right?
is the air.
Yeah. And the winds go all
What if you have
directions.
a wind that's countering it?
Yeah. So winds go in all directions, but you're saying that the wind is somehow magically moving the plane sideways to be in the same tangential velocity with the Earth, which is what the ballers say, right?
Why are you talking about
Jeremy?
wind, bro? Why are you talking about wind?
Why is the plane moving faster sideways?
I just told you if you have something, this doesn't even have to be a plane. It could be anything. If I put you
Let's
in a
just keep
medium, that's if I put you in a medium,
What's
that's
the
moving at
medium
500.
comprised of?
The air. It's all moving with Earth in their globe model. You know how it works,
and
or
that
no?
means that air would all be
You know how
moving
the
in one
globe model
direction.
works?
But we have winds in all directions, Jeremy.
No,
You don't know how the globe model works,
that's
and
the point.
I can't teach you this.
The point is, Jeremy, that the globe model doesn't even claim what they hope you believe.
Whoa. You said a silly. Hold on now. What the fuck
Yeah.
did you? You said, okay, the wind moves with the earth, or if it was to move with the earth, you wouldn't have wind or some shit. But like,
You wouldn't have wind in the opposite direction, because
yeah,
the air would have to be moving all in one direction for it to keep the plane moving with the Earth.
well, I mean, it's moving
Hold,
relatively with the earth. I
hold
mean,
on.
it's like if you're in a
It
car.
relatively doesn't work either.
Well, okay,
But we know winds move in all directions, which totally contradicts that anyway.
but you heard of the car analogy, right? You have a car, you know, obviously the air inside the car is moving with the car, but you know, you turn the AC on and now you got the AC blowing in the opposite direction. But
Non sequitur.
why was it non sequitur?
Because we
That's
don't
totally
experience
not
wind in one
relevant.
direction, just like the air in the car would be moving one direction with the car. It's not the same thing. We have winds in all directions.
Well, no,
Wind
the
is
whole
not
point. But the whole,
wind is not predictable whatsoever.
no,
No
but
plane gets in the air and saying, "Good thing the wind's going to keep me up with the Earth, because I can always count on that wind going in one direction and making my sideways vector that the plane doesn't have, that Jeremy agrees with, all of a sudden there and magically caught up with the Earth."
But I mean, it's not. I would. I don't think it's a non sequitur though, in the sense that
Yeah.
even though it's moving in the opposite direction, it's still moving relative to the car though. So I mean, I
But
feel
do
like
winds move in all directions inside your car naturally?
well, it depends on what the source is. Obviously, in the direction where it's moving opposite, to the car, that would be the
Yeah.
AC.
So so
If
it's
I
totally different.
fart, the fart spreads. Obviously, that's traveling all different directions, but relative
Okay.
to the car though,
This
you
is
know.
Yeah.
totally diverting. You're talking about an enclosed system,
Well, no, but
Yeah.
that's no, that's not. That's
completely
Non
irrelevant though. No,
sequitur,
not
but
that's
you
what.
have
even
to think of it
relevant to
that way
the
to make it
outside
work. That's what
system.
you have to do.
But it's irrelevant to New Perspective's point because New Perspective was saying that if the air is traveling with the Earth, you couldn't have like winds moving in opposite, different directions
I
and
didn't say you
whatnot.
couldn't have. I was saying the winds don't move in all one direction. And even if they did and they pushed your plane to keep up with the Earth, how do you fly against that wind
Like, I'm just
and
tackling
keep
the
up with
whole
the
whether
Earth?
you can have winds or not. I think you can have winds.
Then
So,
make sense of the whole thing with us
So
because that's what we're trying to do.
well, okay,
so
Well,
so
how do winds happen in the
let's
first place? What
let's
are
do
winds?
something
Isn't it
simple,
like
guys. Hold on, Arma. Let's do something simple. Let's take the medium that we're talking about, right? The air, the atmosphere. Let's just make it much denser than it actually is. Would you agree that the same principles would be at play?
if the atmosphere was denser or something? Is that what you said?
Yeah, thinner or denser, right? So let's take a denser medium
Okay.
to illustrate what we're talking about. So let's make the atmosphere like jello. So if we had a jello-like atmosphere and we had wind patterns with a jello-like atmosphere, what would be taking place within your scenario of a plane flying, right? If
The
winds are
Jello.
going in, yeah, jello.
Well, if
So
a
it's a
Jello isn't a
thicker medium.
fluid though, that's not a fluid. Maybe like syrup, maybe. I mean, but even then, I don't even know if you can have winds in a
Jello's
liquid
just
like that.
easy.
But Jello is a solid
Okay,
though.
syrup. You've got syrup. You're dealing with syrup,
Okay.
right? So you leave the thing that is giving you this tangential velocity, right? So you're residing on a surface that's moving 500 miles per hour. You now
Okay.
remove yourself from that surface, right? So the medium that you're in, if it's analogous to the atmosphere, is that medium then going to translate that 500 mile per hour tangential velocity to be able to keep you moving in a specific direction?
The Jello.
Well, we're talking about syrup, but we can talk about
Oh, the
jello
syrup. My bad.
too.
Yeah, right. Sorry, I was okay. I'm sorry. I was kind of like also quickly looking up like stuff on Google, like how does wind work, whatever. But all right. So you're saying if pretty much if the atmosphere is syrup, I guess, and what was it again? You said if the plane is taking off or something. Just you might have to say it again. I do apologize.
Yeah, I mean, think of it this way. You have you can have an RC plane on a very large conveyor belt in a factory filled with fucking syrup. And the RC plane is residing on this conveyor belt that's moving through this factory of syrup. Now, when the RC plane lifts off from the conveyor belt, it's no longer attached to the conveyor belt, though it may still actually retain some of the tangential velocity of the conveyor belt. Would you agree with that situation?
Well, yeah, exactly. But the thing with the syrup though is
So
the syrup
now the
also
plane has
gaining.
removed itself.
Okay.
So the plane has removed itself from this 500 mile per hour conveyor belt.
All right.
And it is no longer attached to it, though it is retaining some of that tangential velocity. Now you are in this medium. The medium, let's say it was stationary in relation to the conveyor belt. That would be analogous to a 500 mile per hour wind in the opposite direction. Would you agree?
Yeah, I guess in this example, yeah.
Okay. So now we are flying through this, for all intents and purposes, a stationary medium, we are still retaining somewhat of our tangential velocity in 500 miles per hour that we got from the conveyor belt as we left it. Now, let's say we are moving towards the other side of the factory and we want to land our plane on a conveyor belt that is going twice the speed in which the conveyor belt that we left is moving. How would we land ourselves on that conveyor belt that's going twice as fast?
Oh
Would
yeah, well
we
in that
have to?
Dude.
well in that example, sure,
When
you're posing this weird thing where basically, even if you leave the 500 miles an hour, what do you call it, conveyor belt, right, and into the syrup, because of the syrup is not, I imagine, not moving with the conveyor belt, whatever, then you're probably gonna have all that friction. It's gonna slow down to the point where the plane is no longer moving at the 500 miles an hour, and then it's when it sees that 1,000 miles an hour conveyor belt, trying to land on that is like is weird, because unless you're landing like with it or something, I don't know, that's not really you're
Yay,
posing.
he gets it. The plane wouldn't be able to land on the thing moving faster than it started off with. Yay, he gets it.
Yeah, but here's the thing though. That's silly though, because I'm pretty sure the ball model says the air is moving with the Earth though. So in this example with the syrup
But
though,
is it?
I don't think the
Oh,
syrup was
wait,
doesn't
moving
first
with
of
the
say
all, the
conveyor
that.
belt
ball
though.
model saying that it moves with it automatically is wrong because it's not with it completely to begin with, right? Not
It
in
doesn't.
sync, not in lockstep, right?
Yep.
So even if it were being pushed with the air slash atmosphere slash wind, even though there's winds going in opposite directions, even if it were true that it was being pushed along to move 501, 502, 503, and now it's just caught up with the Earth automatically sideways in that vector that doesn't exist, right? It's going forward towards this south, facing runway or north facing runway. Now it's got to be moving sideways at 500 miles per hour faster than where it started from. How is it gaining that momentum? And then how would it ever be able to fly against the spin and stay in sync with the Earth?
Well, let me see. So I'm trying to think what happens if you were to take a plane and like instead, because obviously if I was a giant and I threw a plane forward, then it would fly forward for the most part. But if I tried to throw a plane sideways, I think it would start to tumble. Obviously, it's not really meant to fly sideways. So I'm trying to think if
No, it doesn't. It
yeah,
does. It's
so, yeah,
not
yeah,
meant
so
to, and it would have to increase its speed as it's landing, right? So it would, even if it could catch up sideways, it had jets to go in that vector that doesn't exist, which Jeremy agrees with, right? Then it would have that. It would need that sideways vector to keep going with the Earth at 500 miles per hour faster, somehow sideways than it started off with, as it slows down to 100 miles per hour to land forward in a separate vector.
I'm not really following this. I mean, I get
How would it
your
be in
argument.
sync with the Earth if it only had 500 miles per hour conserved momentum? How would it
bro,
gain
because
500 miles per hour?
every time it goes up, if you take off at 500 and you move to an area where it's going at 501, the ground and the air are going together. You're now in the area that's going 500. Your plane is going 501.
Right, but you're saying the air goes in one direction then, right?
In the globe model, they have the air rotating with the Earth. Yes. Do you know how the
We
globe
know it
model
doesn't
works?
happen. Even the globe model
Do
people
you
have
know
to
how the
admit
globe
that
model works?
absolutely the globe model doesn't work is what we're trying to point out. And you're saying, oh, well, just because they say it works, it works. It doesn't work because wind goes in all directions, Jeremy, not just one direction.
Why are you talking about wind?
Wind is different. Yeah, wind is
What is the
different than.
difference between air moving in one direction and wind moving in one direction?
Why are you
You have to
talking about wind,
differentiate.
bro?
What are you talking about? Air moving in a direction isn't a wind.
You're talking about the air that's rotating with the Earth in the globe
How is
model.
that? How is it pushing